Hey, I'm Rio.
And I'm Justin.
And we're from Burner Music Group.
Call me when you're getting ready, baby.
Have you ever wanted to get your MIDI programmed drums to feel a bit more humanized, like you had mics in a live room tracking a real drummer? We're going to show you how we did it in a song we're working through for a band called Daisy here in Phoenix.
So Daisy, they're some great friends of mine, an incredible pop rock band here from Arizona. And what they wanted to do was release a new single. They haven't released some music in quite some time, so they really wanted to get a lot of their influences over the last few years, which include a lot of pop rock drum sounds. And so we tried to really bring that to life. And the way we write songs here at Burner Music Group is sometimes it starts with a loop. Sometimes it starts with a drum loop that you find just to kind of get a vibe for the sound. We call that a drum skeleton. And what this does in the songwriting process is gives our other producers like Justin a reference for building the actual drums for the song. Now, this is pending that you don't have access to record live drums in a studio or actually have access to record them well with the proper mics and the proper equipment that you really need to record drums. So given that context, what we do is we create a drum skeleton so that Justin can essentially produce and write drums for the song.
Yeah, so as we're going to listen to the demo as it stood before I got my hands on it, these sound great, and any drummer who listens to this is going to hear fills all over the place, how they would go about writing, and that's exactly where my brain went. So let's show exactly what the demo was as Rio and Daisy had put it together before passing it to me. So jump into that now. So you get the vibe here thus far, but my brain instantly heard what I was wanting to do with it. But Rio.
So this sounds like a quintessential pop song, right? It's got the lo-fi'd out verse with the toms. It's got kind of the pop rock four on the floor chorus. But what it's really missing is the humanized feel, the drums.
Yeah. And so, I mean, this could be a drum pattern that plays on any top 40 pop song. So we don't want to get too far from that and go full-blown rock with this or even metal, but definitely need to humanize it. And the way you do that is the simple things that I'm going to show you right now. So we're going to go ahead and mute out the drums that Rio had sent me. Again, they sound great, but we can do a bit more. So taking them here, I'm going to show you various ways that you can take MIDI drums as I have done and making them feel a lot more human. So before I go through those specifics, let's listen to the A/B of the version I now have. So we're still capturing exactly what Rio said. We're still capturing that lo-fi pop essence drum, but making it feel like we said earlier, we put mics in a room with a drummer behind a kit. So how did we do that? Let's get into the specifics of that. First off, we're going to start off with the VST I use, which is the Luke Holland kit from Contact. Shout out Luke Holland. These drums sound fantastic. Would recommend this to anybody using live drums in their songs with MIDI. These sound great right out of the box. Not a lot of post-production needed. These can almost be dropped into any song. So starting with these, that does a lot of the heavy lifting. But specifically beyond that, the typical things you have heard from other producers, right? You're going to vary your velocity. So when we go back to the original drums that Rio had sent me, I went ahead and just programmed them in as he had them right into the Luke Holland kit. And you can see this version on my screen versus the version that I just played for you here. And then one thing you're noticing, I don't think it takes a musician to see, there's a lot of different colors on here. We're definitely varying that velocity because no drummer is going to hit the snare or hit the kick the exact same way at the exact same velocity every single time. There's going to be natural variation. Some hits are harder, some hits are softer. So capturing that here, was kind of the number one thing. We need to add that variation. Second to that is, as you've likely heard as well, is nudging things slightly off the grid, or humanizing. So as you see here, some of our snares slightly off the grid, slightly behind the 4. Some of the kicks slightly behind the 4. Or this one slightly ahead of the 4, or slightly ahead of the downbeat. So doing that variation where it's not perfectly on the grid every time makes it feel a lot less robotic. Varying the timing and varying the velocity is going to do a large part of that humanizing, in addition to a lot of the fills you're hearing throughout here. So as we A/B these two, you're going to hear a lot more action going on this kit versus the original version. So we'll play that original version on MIDI, again, as Rio had sent it over, found here. So by about 3 seconds into that, your brain's telling you exactly what to expect over the next few seconds because it's sounding so repetitive.
Again, it's a drum skeleton, so it's going to be a little bit boring, and that's where Justin comes in to add a little bit of flavor.
Yeah, and that's no fault to anybody. That's just natural skeletoning. That's demoing. That's the process. So how do we get that to feel a bit more varied and get the listener interested, getting their ears to perk up and hear things that are different moment to moment and not so expectant of what's to come right around the corner? So adding in a lot of these ghost notes here on the snare, as you see, even some stick hits, in addition to these tom hits, not even fills, just random kind of hits throughout the chorus, adds that natural variation where the listener does but doesn't know what to expect on the next hit. So doing that is, again, the natural drummer in me coming out, where I listen to the original beat he sent and I'm like, I'm hearing fills where I would put them. I know where I would vary the hats, maybe open the hat, maybe do a little ghost note on the snare. So that's where, in addition to the velocity variation, the timing variations, it really starts to begin to feel like a live drummer.
And like I mentioned before, what's really important here is that we're working with a drummer right now in the band Daisy. And so what we're going to be doing is writing these drums out based on their feedback. And then it's my job at this point to come back to the song, provide final notes and feedback based on what the artist wants. And eventually, through some more EQ, some mixing, we're able to bring those live drums to life after mixing and mastering.
100%. Yeah, this is definitely a work in process. And so we're going to have to align it with the actual drummer, because every drummer is going to hear something different in a demo. When you're skeletoning it out, drummers are going to hear fills to their ear and their liking, and I'm going to hear something slightly different. So I don't want to get too away from the band's identity and their sound and the true essence of the drummer. So we're going to check this by them and say, do you like these fills? How would you do it? And we can always tweak. But as it stands now, we're already sounding way more human than the demo started as.
And the mix is sounding better because of some of the samples we're using and some of the patterns that we're choosing to do.
100%. Another thing that we can do to really make these feel human is adding a drum room. So we're going to send this to a drum bus. You don't want to just throw this on your standard, drum chain. You want to send this so you can control the send, control the volume and the mix of it all. But Purified Audio, the GOAT for drum rooms, using their drum room here, I'll solo this out in the chorus, and you can really hear the sound of those live mics. You can hear the sound reverberating off the walls, kind of bouncing back at you as if you were standing in the room and a drummer's across the room playing on a kit. So check that out here. Definitely feels like you're in a live studio at this point.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like you're sitting in Logic producing drums.
It's a nice sweet touch that you can add to the drums themselves to kind of create this mid-side chain EQ feel, compression feel that kind of creates a stereo effect on the drums and really widens them to make them sound even more realistic.
Yeah, and without getting too much into the post-processing, because again, Luke Holland Kit already does a lot of the work for you. Not even really doing a lot of EQ. That's just simply in the verse where you hear things go a bit lo-fied with some high cuts and low cuts. But really the heavy lifting post-processing wise, when we mix the drum room, the kit naturally in by itself, is an EQ, or excuse me, we're doing a compressor here from Universal Audio Empirical Labs, Distressor. This sounds great to really punch your drums through a mix. So that really adds some punch to it, in addition to One of my favorite things for saturation on drums, bass, is the Magma BB tubes from Waves. This is adding a little bit of high end and a little bit of low end harmonic saturation just to, again, thicken those drums up and make them feel a lot more alive in the mix. So again, not a lot of post-processing going on at this point. And again, as we've said many times, this is not the final form, but I think it definitely lets the band hear what this may sound like in its final form, making the drums feel a lot more alive and allows that drummer to really critique on what matters, such as fills, rather than, I don't like the sound of the drums.
Yeah, it becomes a really collaborative effort between the band, the songwriters, and the producers of the project. It allows everybody to kind of add their own flavor and everybody to give their best input to the song rather than just secluding a drummer to figure it out on their own or record live drums in an improper or not very delicate way.
Yeah. Another thing I'll add here as we are doing as you see a lot of the same kind of patterns throughout the song between the verse on eighth notes and a lot of the tom patterns in the verses, adding some natural variation as a drummer would towards the back half of a song, right? You're getting to that final chorus. You're really amping the crowd up. It's in the bridge where everyone's expecting that final chorus. Things are going to pop off, especially if you're playing in a live venue. Like, you need to get people jumping, dancing, singing in that final chorus. So how did I do that as a drummer? Simply just doing some different fills. Originally, we had some tom fills, as we've heard through a lot of this song. Found here. Which again is great. We've just heard a lot of that throughout the song thus far, and to nobody's fault, it's a skeleton, it's a demo, but how can we up the ante and really make it feel human and make it feel like, wow, we're coming to the final chorus, this song's about to pop off to its highest point. So what I did was I went back to my rock roots and just did a simple snare build up here where it feels really human, but lets people know that something's about to change in the song and it's something new that they haven't heard yet. So let's check that out as well. Doing those snare fills, I think, is a great way, in addition to what's layered underneath it with the guitars and the basses, to really up the ante, add some variation to what we haven't heard yet. And again, this is going to be checked by an actual drummer. As you see here, we're doing a snare fill. It's really hard to do that in addition to some tom hits, but it sounds great as we're building up the intensity. So all things are subject to change, but I think this is a great way to pass an idea over to a band, pass an idea over to a drummer and say, let's critique what matters here rather than we need to rewrite the drums.
So there's just a few simple steps that you really need to do to take drums from loops all the way to real live sounding drums in a drum room. Step one, just write them. Find some loops, find some samples, create a drum skeleton that's going to give you a basis for what the song should sound like. Step two, hand it off to a real producer or a real drummer so that they can actually design the drums in the MIDI to your liking and source input from the band as well. Step three, production is going to come in and give final notes on the song, and we might make some tweaks to align with other instrumentals in the song. And in the mixing and mastering process, that's where the magic happens. We're going to be able to mix those drums to make it sound like it's actually recorded live in a room.
Yeah, definitely. If you don't have access to a live room, as I'm sure many of these people watching this video don't, take these tips, take these tricks, use it to humanize your drums. Use those live drum rooms to really make it feel like you did have access to a live studio and you did have access to a session player. So until we're all at that point, think this is a great way to add a bit of spice to your drums, make them feel alive and not so predictable.
That's right. Well, we appreciate you guys sticking around. Thank you. Oh, you're way better at closing than I am.
Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future videos from us, and check out Daisy's song once it's out. Thanks so much for watching. Cheers.
Take care.